Good time of day, guys! My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. Last episode, we finally finished Tsukio Toshi. God, why was that ending part so long? Maybe it was silly of me to misjudge it and think like, oh, well, they're about to kill Teppei, so we're probably done. No, it felt very much the same as Tatari Garoshi in that sense. Which is probably my biggest complaint with Tatari Garoshi, in that, like, after the whole thing with Teppei, it keeps going. And at least the stuff in Tatari Garoshi was interesting. It just kept going, though. But, yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting much out of Tsukio Toshi. It's camp for a while, and then it's fucking ridiculously long for no reason. So, yeah, it was whatever. So now it's time to go into an arc that maybe potentially has some promise in Yoigoshi. I have no idea who this relative of the Sonozakis is there, but I guess we'll learn. Yoigoshi, Beyond Midnight. This arc can be read after completing Chapter 6, Sumi Horoboshi. In the year 2006... Okay... freelance writer Arakawa and last-minute travel companion Miyuki travel to Hinamizawa, only to discover they are not alone in the village. Okay, so this is like a completely different scenario. Alright. This arc includes choices that result in dialogue changes and can lead to bad ends. You want to see these choices? Do we care? Do we care, chat? Do we give a shit? Whatever. We'll do this. Why are you unhappy? Is it because you're still chasing your dream? Why are you unhappy? Is it because you lost something precious? If that's the case, shouldn't you be happy? What an empty way of life it would be. To have nothing to pursue, and nothing to lose. Thanks, Berncastle. June 2006. The bulky frame of the four-wheel drive car rocked back and forth as it ascended the poorly paved mountain road. Since I was riding in a car that wasn't my own for a change, the ceiling was a bit too low to fit my head. The height difference was only a few centimeters, but it was enough to make me feel uncomfortable as I gazed at the scenery through the windshield. The rain that began earlier in the evening was still coming down. Thanks to that, the visibility was even worse than expected. Okay. Arakawa. Wasn't that also the name of the guy in Hinamizawa bus stop who had Akasaka's sprites? Until or unless we see what this guy looks like, we'll just use that voice. Whoa! The car must have ran over a small pothole right there, and the impact jostled me enough for the seatbelt to bite into my shoulder. I think we're in this Arakawa guy's perspective. If they're even a guy, actually. Did they specify? Shit. The fact that the car didn't lose speed was a testament to the efficacy of four-wheel drive, but it made me feel like a battlefield photographer driving out into the depths of the jungle. But I'm starting to feel sick. I quietly muttered to myself as the car sickness began to set in, then let out a sigh. I generally don't have trouble riding in cars, but this is an especially curvy, bumpy road. And it's impossible to get a little shut-eye on a road this uneven. Even now, I keep a hand against the window at all times because the seatbelt can't keep me sufficiently stable. Oh. I suddenly glanced at the... Wow. I almost said watch wrist 4 times there. At the wristwatch on my left hand. Over half a day had passed since we left Tokyo. The sun had already set over the western sky and the surrounding area was pitch black. Since we were heading to a small village deep in the country, there were hardly any streetlights. The only vague indication of our destination ahead was a small portion of land illuminated by the car's headlights. A white guardrail was stretched along the valley on the side of the road, but it would provide little aid if the car inadvertently swerved into it. Okay, my left monitor is doing its whole stupid jumping thing again, so... Die. Alright. In fact, it looked like certain portions of the guardrail were damaged by falling rocks, or something to that effect. It might be possible to see down to the bottom of the valley, but I couldn't bring myself to take a look. There's no saving us if we plunge down there. I couldn't help but tremble as I pictured the grisly sight. Alright, Miyuki's probably just some girl. On the other hand, the woman in the driver's seat, Sorimachi-san, skillfully handled the wheel. We did take a short break along the way, but she's been driving the whole time and still showing no indication of getting tired. Fantastic, an insomniac. The roads up until this point have been 2 cars wide, but it takes a steady driving arm to handle a 4-wheel drive car now that the roads have become just 1 car wide. Despite that, her driving has remained bold and precise. Rather impressive. Indeed, even with the weather as bad as it is, there hasn't been any slippage or sudden braking, just a little shaking. She's one tough lady. I could sense the strong will behind her dignified appearance. If I had to describe her in a single word, beauty seemed most appropriate. Are those ruby earrings shining in her ears? They have a luxurious aesthetic. Not gaudy at all, and they seem suitable for a classy event. She was wearing light casual clothing, jeans, and a long-sleeved blouse. Looking closer, both were name brand. Even though she made a point to dress nicely, she didn't seem overly concerned by fashion trends. Why on earth is a woman like that heading to Hinamizawa? God, my throat's being whack. I haven't talked that much today. It was a personal request from the editor-in-chief. So you guys are, yeah, journalists, okay. And I do appreciate the company, but it still feels completely out of place. So, we're getting close to Hinamizawa? That's right. Oh. The headlights momentarily illuminated a sign on the side of the road. Naturally, I couldn't actually read what was written there. And yet, it's just a little farther. Looked like it said Hinamizawa 10 kilometers right there. Huh? You were able to read that sign just now? Yeah, my eyesight is pretty good. Hearing that left me speechless. Even though she was still focusing on the roads along the way, she was able to make out a sign that only emerged from the darkness for an instant. That's amazing. I ride a motorcycle, but even I don't have nearly that level of keen eyesight. I'm rather envious. I don't mean to boast about it, but I've yet to meet someone who can best me at it. You know those charts that they have in eye doctors' offices? Oh, with all the letters? Yep, I got a high score on one. How do you get a high score on those? You'd be surprised. They gave me a giant teddy bear. They give prizes? Damn, I must really suck. Dimples formed on her round cheeks as she started laughing, and there was such a thin amount of makeup on her face. She looked like such an innocent girl. The car swerved along several more narrow curves, continuing down the slender road through the trees. The road had fallen into disrepair, since traffic on this road has been all but non-existent for over 20 years. Branches and leaves were overgrown along both sides, brushing against the car several times along the way. Oh, okay, so that's what she looks like. I think my voice is appropriate. Well, even if I pat myself on the back about my eyesight, it's basically just muscle memory. I also forget cars are inverted in Japan. I'm American, damn it. We drive on the right side of the road on the left side of the car because we have to be different from all those other motherfuckers who drive on the left side of the road on the right side of their car. Tisk tisk. If you spend a little time practicing, you'll be able to do it too, Arakawa-san. No, I don't think I could even if I practiced. And what sort of practice are you talking about? When I was a little kid, anytime I rode the express train, I'd always try to read the station signs as I drove past them. And whenever I sat in the station waiting for my train to arrive, I'd try to make out the faces of people riding on the passing trains. I guess that's where my good eyesight comes from. So you were exercising your eyesight even as part of your everyday activities? Incredible. Maybe you were meant to be an athlete. No way. I was just killing time, that's all. Sorimachi-san laughed mischievously and stuck out her tongue. That's some rather peculiar training to be considered just killing time.
Suffice to say, that was my father's influence. My father was the sort of person who would never miss an opportunity for that sort of training, even in day-to-day activity. So it became something of a habit.
Like father, like daughter. Well, what voice was I about to do there? Well, your father sounds like an impressive man, Sorimachi-san.
As I said that, she responded with a proud smile that seemed to say, that's right.
Seems like she's really proud of her father. I'm sure that's not going to be important later.
Besides, when I was little, I was pretty terrible at staying still. If I saw something interesting, I'd immediately go and try it out, or investigate it, or ask someone nearby about it. My family and teachers always called me a restless little kid.
Hey, ADHD representative. Woo! Indeed, I always had a kid or two like that in my class. Though they were generally boys, that habit seems rare in girls. So on the nose! I was half kidding. But a wealth of curiosity is precisely what a reporter needs. At least that's what the editor told me.
Editor? Oh, you mean Kano-san of the Weekly 7? What else did he tell you?
Sorimachi-san is an up-and-coming freelance writer who loves nature, but she tends to dive into things head first, so keep a firm hold on her.
Huh? What was that? Did Kano-san really describe me like that?
Kano-san is an editor for the Weekly 7, which makes him a great ally for freelance writers like me, and sometimes an enemy. Incidentally, I considered him an ally when he published some of my more reckless stories, and at the time he stood up for me after an interviewee accused me of defamation. However, there are also times when I have to request inconvenient schedules with my work, or struggle to meet deadlines, and in those cases, he becomes more of an enemy. Sorimachi-san, is the editor of the Weekly 7 an acquaintance of yours?
Yep, that's right. Are you familiar with Outdoor Magazine? I started writing articles there probably 5 years ago.
5 years? Wow. I was surprised, but for a completely different reason. She looks like she's in her mid-20s, but if she has over 5 years of career experience, she might be a bit older than that. Although the mismatch between her calm demeanor, childish face, and innocent gestures left me completely confused about how old she might actually be. Probably mid-20s. If she was dressed in a school uniform, I might mistake her for a high school student. Wait, is that rude of me to say?
But I don't see him very often. He calls me from time to time and occasionally treats me to dinner. But that's really all there is to our relationship.
So you two are close enough to go out to eat together? I jumped in without thinking. First of all, has that old man ever treated me to a meal even once? This is gender discrimination. I should file an appeal.
Well, we have been working together for 5 years. He'd probably eat with you too.
I've known him even longer than that. But we've never had a meal together, even once! It's unfair! Sorimachi-san smiled and laughed as I stomped on the floor and cursed. But going out for dinner?
What's wrong?
Cracking my back. I quickly started to suspect his intentions. No way. Are Sorimachi-san and the editor together? I kinda don't like this guy so far, I'm gonna be honest. Pardon me for asking this, but are you and the editor, you know... I furrowed my brow while holding up my pinky finger. The editor, Kano, is definitely in his late 40s, with a wife and children. Yeah, I don't like this guy. It seems unthinkable. I'd wish a curse upon someone for having such a suspicious relationship with young Sorimachi-san at that stage in life.
Huh? Well, what if I was?
Huh? No way. Really?
Not a chance.
Sorimachi-san's bewildering grin completely blew me away. I cannot read today. What? You were just kidding?
Obviously. Besides, think it over. If Kano-san and I were an item, do you really think he would have sent the two of us out here alone?
That's true. Once she pointed that out, I felt overwhelmed with embarrassment. Nobody would send their girlfriend out on a trip with another man, even if it was work-related. That's like throwing raw meat to a pack of wild beasts. I really don't like this guy. Well, I'm no wild beast. Oh, you sure? Well, I'm glad. I much prefer to people who report on real human conflicts instead of vapid celebrity scandals.
Huh? There are other reporters out there like that?
Of course. It's hard to speak well of a hobby where people find enjoyment in the misery of others. You're not like that, right?
Huh? Me? Indeed, I couldn't enjoy something like that either.
Sorimachi-san smiled back at me as she said that. Seems like we have similar values.
Anyway, the editor was actually really worried. He said it was insane to visit Hinamizawa in June. But no matter how many times he pleaded with you, you kept saying, I have to go. So, what motivated you to visit Hinamizawa right this moment?
I don't really have a specific reason. I just really wanted to go, I guess. Felt like Hinamizawa was calling out to me. Is that so strange?
Hinamizawa was calling out to you?
Right. I guess you could call it a premonition. It was my reporter's intuition speaking, telling me some interesting story was playing out right this very moment. I was half serious, but the rest was just smoke and mirrors. Although it'd be a long story to explain everything that brought me here.
Intuition, huh? If that's how it is, I understand. There's definitely something to that.
Sorimachi-san stared blankly for a while like she was thinking of something, then suddenly smiled and nodded at me. Oddly enough, her smile didn't make me feel uncomfortable, even if she was teasing me. That's why I had no trouble playing along. But the truth is, you don't actually believe in premonitions, right?
Huh? That's not it at all. That's the kind of judgment a person develops through years of professional experience. Maybe Kano-san really believes in you, Arakawa-san.
Is that so? Incidentally, what did the editor tell you about me?
Well, to keep it brief, he said you're a weirdo.
You bastard, I'll remember this next time. You are. I immediately burst into insults. So, we're a headstrong, nature-loving reporter and a weirdo. What a strange combination. At any rate, I've always been opposed to working with people I don't know very well, but I didn't have an issue working with women, for whatever reason. Even though I've had a long relationship with Editor Kano and the Editor-in-Chief, I still couldn't read what they were truly thinking. It's certainly more comfortable than traveling on my own, and not to mention, a beautiful woman is always a welcome addition. Well, I wonder if he was really off base there. Can't exactly say that I'm not a weirdo.
Ah, so you're admitting it?
But, well, aren't you just as weird? After all, you're coming all the way to this deserted village with me. Haven't you heard the rumors about Hinamizawa and its dark past? What on earth are you thinking?
Indeed, I'm no different. I suppose intuition is speaking to me too?
After pondering it for a while, she lightly shrugged her shoulders.
The blockade on this region was only recently lifted, right? Once I found out, I had to come right away. This might be my only chance to go.
Oh, really? I felt the same way. So, that's why you approached the editor?
At first, I wasn't contacting him for business. We were just making small talk, and I mentioned I'd like to meet the author of a particular article. Oh, I guess that's a little weird. Please don't take it the wrong way.
Sorimachi-san stopped to think, then quickly shook her head. A little weird? Somehow she looked a little embarrassed by that. I wonder how she interpreted it.
I've been interested in visiting Hinamizawa for a very long time. So, I thought it would be best to meet up and discuss it directly beforehand. It was then he told me that you were planning to go to Hinamizawa. That's how it all played out.
I see. Even so, her let's meet up and share a story suddenly transformed into let me come with you right as I was about to depart. She's far more than just some beautiful woman. I mean, wouldn't that become a nuisance? Considering this lead seems too good to be true, I wonder what the editor was thinking in making things more complicated. That suspicion made the atmosphere feel heavy when we first met, so the two of us sat in silence. But once she started talking about my articles, I began to feel more comfortable. It seems so simple, but it's impossible for someone to be unhappy after hearing someone praise something they've written. Thanks to that, my perception of her as an intimidating beauty vanished, replaced with an image of an approachable, lovely lady. And somehow, I found myself interested in Sorimachi-san even beyond the relationship between man and woman. See, normal people call that a friendship. You did mention it a bit right before we departed, but what kind of articles have you written, Sorimachi-san?
Huh? Articles?
Sorimachi-san suddenly turned in my direction, surprised by the question. Just as she did that, the car swerved and hit a bump. What awful timing. The tire must have drifted over the edge of the road. Ah, be careful!
Sorry, my mistake.
Feeling a bit flustered, she lowered her head and turned forward, with her hands tightly on the wheel. It's alright. You can keep your eyes facing forward. Anyway, back to my question.
Right. I've been writing all sorts of things. I really do love nature, so I guess a lot of it is about that.
Wow. What kind of articles?
Places with scenic vistas, secluded hot springs, mainly those sorts of things. In addition to Outdoor Magazine, I do some writing for Surf Fishing Master. Outdoor has more articles to read, but Surf Fishing has a lot of pictures of the sea, so they both have their strong points.
Wow. All sorts of outdoor activities. Are you into camping too, Sorimachi-san?
Yeah, totally. I made it to Ranger and Girl Scouts, you know.
So you were still into it even in high school? That's impressive.
Really, river fishing seems to suit me more than sport fishing or deep sea fishing. But I learned a lot about surf fishing from an old acquaintance of mine. And thanks to that, I've been blessed with the opportunity to write several articles about it.
I see. Art still has to bring in the daily bread after all.
That's right, it really was a big help.
Sorimachi-san sounds so excited while talking about it. She must really love it. Even though we were going back and forth, honestly, I was completely out of my element. I did recognize those magazine names, but I've never read either of them before. Still, just listening to her talk about it made me oddly interested. I'll have to keep my eye out for those magazines next time I have the opportunity. But it is rather unusual for a lady to take a liking to fishing. I really don't like this guy. I'm sure people have told you as much.
Yeah, quite often. But fishing allows you to immerse yourself into a world of your own. It's a perfect change of pace. Plus, a woman really stands out at a fishing spot, so it gives people a reason to start up a conversation and get along. The people you meet at the docks are always kind and willing to help out.
Now that's some positive thinking. Honestly though, you don't look like the kind of person who would need help from strangers.
Really? That's how I look?
Yeah. When I first met you earlier today, I thought you looked like a well-mannered, classy lady.
What? Nonsense. When I first met you outside the station, you looked blown away to see this massive four-wheel drive car.
Is that so? I mean, it looks like the kind of car a monster would drive.
A monster? How rude. I think you need to watch your tongue.
The mood on our ride was bright and full of smiles. Come to think of it, how long has it been since I carried a one-on-one conversation with a girl like this? Perhaps it's a little unfitting for someone my age, but deep down it felt exhilarating. Before long, we passed by a streetlight. The pavement on the road suddenly got even worse, and the car started rocking even more violently. And then, the headlights quickly illuminated a set of heavy agricultural equipment abandoned in an open field along the side of the road, which then melted into the darkness just as fast as it appeared.
Looks like we finally reached Hinamizawa.
Indeed. At last. Sorimachi-san had a serious look on her face as she clung to the steering wheel. There were no streetlights in the vicinity, so the surrounding area was engulfed in a dismal atmosphere. The low hum of the engine and the sound of raindrops striking the windshield had me feeling uneasy. By the way, is this your first time coming to Hinamizawa?
Yeah, this is my first time stepping in on my own two legs. I've got a rough map of the village roads, but since the village is abandoned, I had trouble finding reliable information. What can you tell me about it, Arakawa-san?
Huh? Me? Actually, there's not much else I can add.
Huh? But didn't you write an article for the Weekly 7 about it just last week?
Actually, All the pictures in my last article came from before the village was closed off. This is my first time coming here too.
What? Is that so?
Oh, I do have a good understanding of the village's layout. It's all just in my head, though. Even though it's been over 20 years, the village has been blockaded the whole time. So I'm sure it hasn't changed much. We'll be fine.
That's right. As long as nothing has changed, we should be fine.
Sorimachi-san sounded a bit disappointed as she let out a small sigh. I was planning to investigate the scene in an ad hoc manner, so I didn't bother to stock up on information. The best I had was an old map. I guess she was expecting me to be able to provide advice. Unlikely. Well, we'll manage somehow. I do have a proper map, but it's from 20 years ago. Maybe it would be better to think of me as your bodyguard?
Huh? You're my bodyguard, Arakawa-san? What do I need protection from?
Well, in this area, things tend to appear.
Huh? What kind of things?
Ghosts.
Huh.
My voice dropped a bit as I said that, and the smile disappeared from Sorimachi-san's face.
Ghosts? What do you mean?
A gas disaster struck Hinamizawa village over 20 years ago. I was still in elementary school when it happened. You're familiar with it, right? Sorimachi-san silently nodded. June 1983. Toxic gas emerged from a swamp near Hinamizawa village and claimed the lives of over 2,000 villagers overnight. Even the surrounding area was engulfed by the Great Hinamizawa disaster. At the time, people debated if the disaster was natural or man-made in origin, and the incident had such an impact on the neighboring municipalities that it even shook major cities like Tokyo. The Self-Defense Force's slow response to the disaster further increased the death toll. We simply didn't have the technology to grasp the geological information at the time. And shortly thereafter, the incumbent administration suffered intense backlash from the opposition parties, the mass media, and more, which resulted in tremendous political upheaval. Then the government issued an indefinite blockade of Hinamizawa village, which turned it into a ghost town. All entry was strictly prohibited until very recently. The location was even redacted from all maps. The volcanic gas originated from a swamp upstream of the village, back in June of 1983. It actually happened right around this time of year.
Now that you mention it, yeah.
Right. And of course, that's why the editor told me it was insane to visit Hinamizawa in June. It's the right time of year, so it wouldn't be unnatural for a curse or a ghost to manifest itself. There could be people out there right now, shambling about, unaware of their own death.
That sounds pretty awful.
Sorimachi-san responded in a somewhat silly, somewhat serious voice. Judging by her light laughter, it didn't seem like she was afraid. I guess you're not the kind of person who believes in spirits and things like that, Sorimachi-san.
I wonder. I'm not much of a believer at all, I guess, if I had to pick.
And then I guess you're not the sort of person who enjoys visiting haunted houses?
No, actually, I kind of like haunted houses. They're not so bad as long as you bring a little kid along to get carried away and cling to you.
Well, don't expect me to be so clingy.
That's right. We went on an excursion to an amusement park back when I was in elementary school, and I went in the haunted house with everyone, but I actually found it really fun. All the boys and girls were crying, wah, wah, and I was the only one who made it out without crying.
Oh, well, I see. For how proudly she spoke, it didn't feel like she was faking it. Apparently Sorimachi-san is stronger than I first thought. It was such a sweet delusion, picturing her trembling and clinging to me, but it was useless to expect anything of the sort. Well, any guy looking to become such a lion-hearted girl's boyfriend is in for a rough time. Alright, Miyuki, kick him out of the car and drive away. I wonder, does Sorimachi-san have a boyfriend?
Is something wrong?
No, it's nothing. Anyway, how have things been going for you recently?
How have things been going?
Sorimachi-san stared blankly with her eyes open wide for a while. But when she realized what I was talking about, she gave me a sideways glance. Her large eyes were surrounded by thick, moist eyelashes, and looking at her alluring profile, my heart suddenly began to race. I wonder if it was too soon to steer the conversation in such a personal direction. Oh, well, actually, I was wondering if you had anyone clinging to you.
Ah, that's what you were getting at? I wonder why you're asking that.
Sorimachi-san held a hand to her chin like she was pondering something, but the way her eyes mischievously darted around made it obvious she was just striking a pose. Somehow the conversation took an awkward turn. You literally caused that, bro. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I guess I should choose my questions more carefully. I didn't intend anything weird by that.
Huh? You don't have any weird intentions? What a letdown.
Huh?
Actually, I was thinking what it would be like to cling to you, Arakawa-san.
No, don't fall for this weirdo. What? Then, you mean... I started getting excited again and took a big gulp. There are so many ways to interpret something like that, but is it alright for me to get my hopes up? Is it? Wait, hold on. I mean, even if that were true, it'd be far too blunt to just say, I'll hold you tight. I need to comport myself like a dignified man, at least for a little while. Just so you know, ghosts and ghouls are pretty scary. If one were to actually pop out on us, I wonder if you'd be able to play it cool.
Well, is that so? And if that actually happened, what would you do?
Well... Sorimachi-san responded in a light tone, passing the whole thing off as a joke. That may have been a childish thing to do, but even if a man is kicked down, his dignity demands he get up again. Besides, I'm not one to let a topic about ghosts and spirits go lightly. I just have to throw myself in head first. I think spirits are more frightening than ghouls. A ghoul is just an evil apparition, essentially a beast in all but appearance. But a spirit is like a congealed mass of passionate human emotions. Particularly the ones who died feeling an intense grudge. Those are the worst.
I've heard stories like that plenty of times. But no matter how much you hate someone, it's all over once you're dead, isn't it?
Well, that's what most people would say. But there are people out there who think it doesn't end after death. Like me.
Huh?
The serious tone in my response caught Sorimachi-san off guard, and the smile quickly disappeared from her face. So I cleared my throat and continued with my story. Even when the body dies, I believe the thoughts they held in life still remain in this world. Well, if a person passes away with no regrets, then there won't be any thoughts left behind. But a person like that is a rare occurrence. And the emotions contained therein include anger, sadness, resentment, and hatred. Pretty much all the negative human emotions.
I see. So if they're filled with regret, the people who hold those negative emotions linger in this world as a spirit?
Right. At least, that's what I think. Even though the body dies, their thoughts remain. So at times they'll borrow a person's appearance in order to fulfill those thoughts and regrets. For example, to resolve the resentment they felt as they died. A huge number of people in this village lost their lives on the day of the gas disaster. It's not hard to imagine that some of their regrets still linger here. I'm certain there are still many spirits here who, even in death, are unable to move on. The resentment they feel after suffering such an unjust death can act as the impetus to direct their anger toward all living beings. Oh, sorry. That was a really weird thing to say. When I noticed that Sorimachi-san had gone silent, I stopped talking and scratched my head. No, this is bad. I've said way too much. I get carried away when discussing this subject. I can be such a moron. Really, I'm sorry. That's why girlfriends are always running away from me. Or, no, I didn't mean it like that. Dude, your rambling was actually, like, the most normal thing you've done.
No, it's okay. I was prepared for this. It can't be helped. I think this sort of thing is just an occupational illness.
Huh? Once I heard those unexpected impressions, I immediately turned and had to ask about it. There have been plenty of topics she's been surprised by and smiled wryly about, but this is the first time she's actually acknowledged that, isn't it? What do you mean by occupational illness?
You're an occult writer, right? Isn't scaring people part of your job?
Huh? Sorry, Machi-san, are you seriously suggesting that?
That's right. I did come slightly prepared for that sort of thing, so you don't have to worry about it at all.
Sorry, Machi-san flashed me a confident and open-hearted smile. Hey, I'm not like that. This is a total misunderstanding. I'm not some creepy occult writer, okay? No, you're just a creepy writer. Unrealistic ghost stories are the work of novelists and storytellers. I'm a journalist trying to report on real events. It's completely different. It makes it impossible to enjoy the alluring smile pointed my way. In fact, it's rather painful. That's all a misunderstanding. My job is to investigate the truth behind these peculiar locations. I'm not a horror writer. These articles aren't written to scare people.
It's alright, you don't have to try so hard to explain it. I haven't misunderstood anything.
Please, you can't say that kind of thing straight to my face.
No, I'm certain I'm not mistaken on this.
No matter how I looked, I couldn't see it that way. The disagreeable atmosphere left me feeling dejected. However, Sorimachi-san glanced back at me and spoke up.
But I do really admire how passionately you speak, Arakawa-san. Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
It's admirable? Wonderful? That was the first time in half a lifetime that someone told me that. I turned to face Sorimachi-san as I muttered that to myself. Then, suddenly, she turned back toward me and our eyes met. Her huge eyes completely drew me in. I was completely fascinated. I was...
Whoops.
Sorimachi-san, out front! Keep your eyes forward while you drive. Focus on the mountain road.
I'm sorry.
Sorimachi-san smiled cheerfully as she turned her eyes forward. I was a little relieved that her dazzling gaze was no longer upon me. I wasn't sure how to handle it.
After this, I do have a small suggestion.
What is it?
Would you call me Miyuki from now on? Hardly anyone calls me Sorimachi, so it feels a little odd.
Is that so?
And at the same time, would it be alright if I called you Ryunosuke-san instead of Arakawa-san?
I guess that's alright.
Then feel free to speak freely, Ryunosuke-san.
Sure. Where did this development come from? Have things progressed that much? Even though I was still feeling confused by this development, Sorimachi-san seemed to be laughing gleefully. Is this some kind of misunderstanding? Is this alright? Is it?
Ryunosuke-san?
Yes?
It's your turn now. Please, don't hold back.
Well, if you insist, Miyuki-chan. Didn't feel right to refer to her without an honorific. How stupid can I be? But even so, Sorimachi-san, Miyuki-chan, just gleefully laughed and turned forward to concentrate on the road. My heart was still racing. So, Miyuki-chan, do you have a boyfriend?
Huh? Why are you asking that?
Somehow, something about your aura makes me think so. It was a blatant lie. I felt miserable for saying it, but I don't have a lot of experience talking about relationships. In other words, I just wanted to hear if she had a lover directly from her lips.
Is that so? Nope, I actually don't have a boyfriend.
Really?
I have a girlfriend.
It'd be so fucking funny if they do that, please. First you do the ADHD representation, go further. You're allowed to. You have every right to. This is a new character. Do it.
That's right, no boyfriend.
Miyuki-chan grinned and laughed, then said nothing more. If what she said is true, could that be an invitation? Dude, you're so stupid. I stole a quick glance at Miyuki-chan's face. Her expression looked completely composed. She's just difficult to approach because of her beauty. But I wonder if she'd keep silent like this if I asked her out. This is an unforeseen development, but I wonder how she feels about this. Would she be interested in having a boyfriend? Nope, too bad for you. But if that's the case, where should I invite her to? I couldn't think of the right words to broach the subject, but the conversation had grown stagnant for a while and I was growing impatient. And just then...
So, Ryunosuke-san, how long's it been?
Huh?
Since you started freelance writing.
Huh? That's right. The unexpected question took me by surprise, so I took a moment to think back. It's probably been close to 10 years since I first started working with the editor. It's been 7 or 8 years since I went freelance. When I was first starting out, things were so shaky I struggled to keep myself fed. Before that, I was doing editing for a magazine.
Were you always writing about occult subjects?
I guess. That was a lie. I'd been interested in the occult for a long time, but it wasn't actually part of my career. In the beginning, I was just interested in writing in general, so I started out writing about various topics regardless of genre. It was a life on the verge of starvation. Then, one day, a strange elderly couple suddenly contacted me. I'll never forget it. It was in the summer 3 years ago when I was struggling to find work. Okay. Are they ever gonna get to Hinamizawa? I was contacted by people claiming to be my grandparents. I was born and raised in a family without a father. I never knew the identity of my father or any of my paternal relatives for that matter. Apparently, my father died in an accident 8 years ago, and my grandparents only learned of my existence after looking through some of the belongings he left behind. They contacted me and offered to show me my father's belongings, including 2 tapes and dozens of diaries. Based on the contents of the diaries, I learned my father was a reporter for a weekly photo magazine. As fate would have it, he and I were working the exact same career. According to his diary, after the Great Hinamizawa disaster, my father started visiting hospitals across the prefecture on a daily basis to listen to the stories of survivors and other people involved. Some massive, enigmatic power must be lurking in that village. A magical power capable of dragging the living to the land of the dead. That was what my father wrote in his diary at the time. What, is your dad Akasaka or something? The tapes I received were from interviews he conducted with people related to the Great Hinamizawa disaster. Their content was so eerie and bizarre that it pained me to listen to them again. I don't know if that's supposed to be an implication about it. Because you're saying, yeah, he's a reporter. Akasaka wasn't a reporter, but he did visit hospitals talking to survivors, at least in Taraimawashi. So, maybe? I mean, that makes sense, especially since he shared the name of his stand-in from Bus Stop. Maybe he became a reporter afterwards. I don't know. And the last survivor went on to predict their own death. Interestingly, that survivor also predicted my father would drown to death. And my father did, in fact, die in an accident at sea. I don't know what happened to the survivors my father interviewed. I don't even know if they're safe. No, it wouldn't be Akasaka. That would mean he'd had an illegitimate child. Nope. But the prophecy of that one particular survivor was right on the mark. For a long time, I wasn't interested in writing about anything. It felt like I had hit the limit of my career as a freelance writer, but the discovery of that diary felt like an act of fate. I sought to prove that by writing a lot of occult articles, which I'm still doing even today.
You're always writing about occult topics, Ryunosuke-san. You're an occult specialist.
I'm hardly an expert. Just a fool with the insatiable curiosity to pursue the subject.
But even if you're only writing these articles to sate your own curiosity, that still makes you an expert.
Even though I kept trying to conceal my true intentions, Miyuki-chan continued to praise me. On the contrary, all her praise only left me feeling more abashed.
So, anyway, what kind of occult stories have you heard about Hinamizawa Village?
Huh?
Occult stories. I'm sure you've heard plenty about Hinamizawa, right?
Oh, right, occult stories.
Is something bothering you?
Miyuki-chan had a dubious look on her face. For a moment, the gas disaster survivor who predicted my father's death came to mind. For now, I didn't want to tell her about the girl who predicted my father's death. I'm certainly interested in occult phenomena, but I'd rather not discuss it with someone interested in and familiar with Hinamizawa. No, it's nothing.
Don't hesitate. You can talk to me.
But, well, I doubt it's the sort of thing that would interest you, Miyuki-chan.
That's not true. In fact, I'm quite interested.
Really? Well, then maybe just a bit. What should we talk about? I couldn't discern her true intentions, but decided it would be best to continue for the time being. Well, Hinamizawa has plenty of occult stories unrelated to my father. I can choose from any of those. Something that would satisfy her curiosity. Something not too heavy. Maybe a mild tale from their oral traditions? Oh, right. Are you familiar with the guardian deity of Hinamizawa?
Guardian deity?
A legend that has been passed down in Hinamizawa since ancient times. A god who protected this world from corruption. Known by the name Oyashiro-sama.
Oyashiro-sama.
Miyuki-chan's face lit up. The conversation kept moving farther and farther from romance. I'd actually prefer to discuss more personal matters, but I suppose this is alright. According to the village's ancient teachings, it was an absolute taboo to anger Oyashiro-sama, which seems natural for their guardian god after all. Although Miyuki-chan focused on the road, she continued listening intently and occasionally turned back. When I noticed that, I switched to gears and did my best to sound like a serious journalist in my explanation, rather than some idle gossip reporter. Because if Oyashiro-sama ever became angry, the villagers would be sacrificed to the swamp to quell that anger. The sacrifices would be wrapped in bamboo mats and tossed into the bottomless swamp to slowly sink away. And that bottomless swamp was the very same swamp that released the poison gas in the Great Disaster.
Wow.
Miyuki-chan muttered that with a peculiar look in her eyes as she continued to focus on driving. No, it actually looked like she was lost in thought. The mountain road was growing narrower and narrower, and the surrounding area even more lonesome. Didn't they say like 30 minutes ago, oh, we made it? Oh, just as I thought. I guess I shouldn't have brought up this story?
That's not it. After all, I'm the one who asked about it. So that's really the kind of place we're headed, huh? When you're tangling with the dead, you must be cautious not to die yourself.
Her tone was devoid of the humor from earlier. I was careful to choose a topic grounded in reality, but unfortunately it only exacerbated the tension. Though it was a problem of my own making, the atmosphere was getting rather heavy. Let's change the subject. Maybe I asked this earlier, but what kind of music have you been listening to lately?
I haven't been listening to much these days.
Then what'd you listen to before?
Not much.
Though I tried to liven the atmosphere, the conversation didn't go anywhere. With no other options available, I opened my bag to take a look at the map I brought with me.
Finally.
Finally?
Huh?
What were you saying finally to right now?
Oh, that... I was just thinking that we're finally going to reach Hinamizawa, and I started feeling tense. Sorry, I was just talking to myself.
She meant finally this dumbass stopped talking. Miyuki-chan's thoughts were elsewhere. Then she said, "That's enough talking," and fell silent. And so I made no effort to say anything more. Shortly thereafter, my field of view suddenly cleared up. It seemed we were on top of a small hill at the moment.
Looks like we're here. Ryunosuke-san, would you like to step out for a bit?
Sure. Miyuki-chan stopped her car on the side of the road just after asking that, then quickly popped open an umbrella while climbing out of the car. Though the weather was still poor, it was certainly worthwhile to step out of a stuffy car to get some fresh air. I jumped out of the car in a hurry, but in the process, I knocked over a can of coffee in the cup holder. Ah! Plop. And to make matters worse, the coffee landed on Miyuki-chan's document case. Damn it! Then I twisted my body to reach into the back seat and grab a tissue, but I bumped my leg into Miyuki-chan's document case and it fell to the floor. Ugh, double fail. I quickly wiped the spilled coffee with a tissue, and when I tried lifting the camera case to get easier access to the document case, I was surprised by how light it felt. What? It wasn't locked. Though I felt bad for doing so, I gently opened the lid and peered inside. It was a very respectable case, but I found a completely ordinary camera inside. Can a camera with such a low resolution really be used to take nature photos for a magazine? No, I didn't see a telephoto lens or any of the accessories necessary for landscape photography. Thinking that suspicious, I ran my eyes toward the documents scattered on the floor. Several blank copy sheets were scattered on the floor of the passenger seat. Below those, I found a few magazine and newspaper articles, and a couple weird-looking scrapbooks. And among the newspaper clippings, I found articles related to Hinamizawa, and an article about a murder in a Tokyo hospital. Miyuki-chan's words echoed in my ears.
Places with scenic vistas, secluded hot springs, mainly those sorts of things. In addition to Outdoor magazine, I do some writing for Surf Fishing Master. Outdoor has more articles to read, but Surf Fishing has a lot of pictures of the sea, so they both have their strong points.
Shouldn't her luggage contain material related to this expedition? It kinda does. Maybe, I don't know. Other than the Tokyo thing. There's not one document of the sort amongst these belongings. All the documents Miyuki-chan had were completely unrelated to her job as an outdoor photographer. I thought she was a freelance writer. What on earth does this mean? Outside the window, I could see Miyuki-chan standing out on a hill where she could get a better view. Suddenly, Miyuki-chan turned back toward me with a dubious look on her face. She might get suspicious if I take too long. I flashed a friendly smile toward Miyuki-chan, then quickly tossed the articles back inside the document case and stepped out of the car. Ah! That moment, a peculiar sound jumped into my ears. No, it can't be. It must have just been the rain striking the leaves. It couldn't have been the sound of another person. The car's headlights struck the ground by my feet, revealing the sheer cliff face just a few meters away. This location overlooked a small opening below the hill. It was dark at the moment, so I couldn't tell for sure, but this vantage point will probably provide a nice view tomorrow. Oh, finally a sprite.
Long ago, an entire village of people lived here. This is Hinamizawa, huh?
Miyuki-chan let out a heavy sigh after saying that. Visibility was poor because of the thick clouds littering the sky, but somehow I could make out the abandoned houses, dilapidated buildings, and overgrown foliage that may have been in an open field in the past. This village has been off limits for over 20 years, thanks to the poison gas released in the disaster. The ban was only recently lifted. We know. It truly is a ghost town. No signs of human life at all.
None at all.
Miyuki-chan quizzically turned to me with her head tilted to the side. Surprised by her reaction, I had to ask, "Is something wrong?" But Miyuki-chan didn't respond. The two of us reluctantly stared down at the abandoned village. Was there something strange about an abandoned village not showing any signs of human activity? Huh? Just then, I noticed a light coming from a corner of the village where nobody should be. Oh.
What's going on?
This village? Is there a chance that someone is living here?
Impossible. Why would they?
But it definitely looks like there's a light coming from over there. Miyuki-chan's face quickly grew tense. The exceptionally sharp gaze in her eyes made me flinch.
Where is it?
No way. It's already gone. They shut it off just now. Miyuki-chan stared intently in the direction of the village. But the only thing standing before our eyes was a village bathed in darkness. The passing rain began to build in intensity, causing this village devoid of streetlights to grow even darker. Maybe it was my imagination. This village is abandoned, so there shouldn't be anyone here. I must have just been mistaken. I turned to walk back toward the car, but Miyuki-chan remained still. Hey, Miyuki-chan, isn't it about time to head back to the car?
Please wait.
Miyuki-chan pondered something for a moment, then rushed over and grabbed me by the arm. Even though her sudden aggressive behavior left me lost and confused, that sentiment vanished the moment I caught a glimpse of her expression. She wasn't looking for help. In fact, it was the complete opposite. What is it?
Ryunosuke-san, can't you feel it? The presence of another person.
Huh? I frantically looked back and forth, but I couldn't see any signs of human activity. Just the hum of the rain as it struck the grass. A presence besides us?
Right. I've had a strange feeling ever since we arrived here 2 minutes ago.
Huh? Suddenly, Miyuki-chan turned backwards. I, too, scrambled to turn around. But the only thing in the road was the car we drove here in. Miyuki-chan, can you sense spirits or something?
No. I guess it was just my imagination. After all, there's no way anyone else would be here.
I couldn't bring myself to say, that's right. The words from my father's diary suddenly came back to me. Some massive, enigmatic power must be lurking in that village. A magical power capable of dragging the living to the land of the dead. No way. Could the deceased person from this village be calling out to us? That's impossible, right? I put my hand on the door to let myself into the car once again. Then I stopped for a moment and decided to head over to the driver's seat. Let's get going. I'll drive this time.
Oh no, you don't have to do that.
What's wrong?
I'll drive, so you can go ahead and sit in the passenger seat, Ryunosuke-san. I'm rather attached to this car.
But you've been driving the whole way from Tokyo, aren't you tired?
I'm fine. I love driving.
She had a smile on her face, but her tone was firm. After Miyuki-chan's stubborn refusal, she sat down in the driver's seat. Then I climbed into the passenger seat and the car slowly started moving again. Miyuki-chan didn't say a single word after that. No more than a kilometer later, the car came to a sudden halt. Much like before, I stumbled forward and the seatbelt dug into my shoulder. What's going on? Miyuki-chan? I called out to her again, but Miyuki-chan kept her foot on the brake with a nervous look on her face. A car. A car? She quietly nodded, then pointed out front. A mid-sized car was parked right in front of us. Oh. So someone else is visiting. Even in the rain and without any moonlight, the car's body shined against the darkness. I took off my seatbelt and stepped out of the car. Miyuki-chan left the car idling and followed my lead. Huh. I would have to assume the person in the sprite from the title screen, the chapter select menu or whatever, I'd assume that's just a Kane, right? But like 20 years older. Because she's probably like 40-ish in the main story, so she's probably like 60-ish now, because they got wrinkles. They're probably about 60, so that makes most sense to me, and I guess that means she somehow didn't die well, she's in Okinomiya most of the time, but I don't know, that's my guess. Let's read a little bit more. I do have another thing that I want to say. Actually, I'll say it now just in case the game doesn't give me the chance to predict this. So even though it's kind of silly what Arakawa was saying about the articles and all that, I think that tied in with Miyuki's driving skill. She's not a freelance writer, she's an undercover detective, right? I think that's what's going on. And she's trying to solve some sort of bullshit here. I don't know. That's my guess, though. And that also explains her capability. Short hair, because police officers don't often have long hair, I guess. I don't know.
What's it doing in a place like this?
Can't belong to a resident of this village. The shape looks too modern, and it's still in good condition. Where did it come from? And it looks like the license plate has been carefully removed. I've got a bad feeling about this. Nothing good can come from something like that.
Even though the ban has been lifted, what on earth could they be doing in an abandoned village?
I glanced at my wristwatch. 9:30 p.m. What would a car be doing here at this hour?
I'll check it out.
Sensing the foreboding atmosphere, Miyuki-chan shut off the engine and headed out. I popped open the dashboard and grabbed the flashlight, then quickly followed after Miyuki-chan. Just as I got close to the car, my bad feelings started nagging even worse. All the windows were covered in packing tape. I pointed my flashlight at the car's interior. There were 3 people inside the car, with their heads leaning back against their seats. They had a light pink tone on their faces. Their complexion looked good. But down by their feet sat a charcoal grill. Okay, so they're dead.
Charcoal? Could it be?
Bang, bang, bang. I pounded on the window several times, but the people in the car kept sleeping. They didn't move at all. Hey! Wake up! Get up! Bang, bang, bang. I could feel the heat from the inside of the car radiating through the window. Miyuki-chan moved over to the door, but the door clattered as she tried to open it. No good, it won't open. Let's break the window and unlock the door. I'll search for something we can use.
Please do!
I ran back to our car and grabbed the toolbox. The tools clattered inside as I picked them up. A group suicide? This is serious. But the people in the car still have color to their faces. I'm not sure how long that grill has been lit, but there's still a chance we can save them. I desperately sifted through the tools, clinging to the faintest hope. Eventually I found a heavy wrench, then stomped through a puddle as I rushed back to the locked car. I found something! Will this work? But when I got back, I couldn't see Miyuki-chan. Where did she go? She should be right here. I ran over to the side of the door and firmly planted my feet. But just then... Huh? Even though I stopped, did I hear one more footstep? Miyuki-chan? I looked behind me, yet nobody was there. Interesting, but I did hear that footstep. Oh, lovely, I know where this is going. Maybe it was my imagination? It has to be. Still, where did Miyuki-chan go? At any rate, I lifted the wrench overhead and swung it down toward the window. I heard a dull thud, but the window didn't even crack. Bam, bam. Damn it! I struck the window with my wrench multiple times. Bam, bam. Surprisingly resilient! I expected the glass to shatter after a single blow, so I was surprised by how much I struggled. But after several more blows... Crash. At last, the window shattered. But as soon as it did, my head began to ache and I started feeling dizzy. Carbon monoxide must be leaking out of the broken window. Shit! I thrust my arm inside and undid the lock, then vigorously tossed the door open. Along with the muggy warm air, the stench of death wafted out. Thump. I heard footsteps coming from behind my back. My heart skipped a beat, but then I couldn't hear the footsteps anymore. Who could it be? Were those the same footsteps I heard a little while ago? A chill ran down my spine. I hesitantly turned back, but then quickly grew frustrated with my cowardice and turned more vigorously. And then right there...
Ryunosuke-san?
Huh? I found Miyuki-chan standing behind me, looking surprised.
What's going on?
Huh? Miyuki-chan? What's going on? That's what I wanted to ask you! Miyuki-chan, where'd you run off to? Miyuki-chan ignored my question, and instead reached for the woman with her eyes closed and grabbed her by the wrist to check for a pulse. Yeah, I'm right.
We were too late?
And so I sighed. From the start, there was no need to check for a pulse. It seemed self-evident. After all, they showed no signs of breathing. I knew from the moment I opened the door and caught a whiff of that stagnant air.
That's a shame.
They have such beautiful faces. How can they be dead?
Carbon monoxide poisoning. When it mixes with the hemoglobin in their blood, it temporarily causes their skin tone to look like normal.
The cold, dispassionate tone in her voice took me by surprise. Yeah, I'm right. Miyuki-chan lightly shook her head, then softly closed the door.
At any rate, we can't leave the situation like this.
Oh, sorry, Arakawa. At any rate, we can't leave the situation like this. We need to contact the police. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my cell phone. Suddenly, I noticed something in the corner of my line of sight and looked up. Miyuki-chan was staring intently at my cell phone. Her eyes were glaring at the phone so sharply that they could pierce right through it. Miyuki-chan?
So? Is your phone able to connect?
Surprised by Miyuki-chan's comment, I took a moment to return to my senses. Miyuki-chan's eyes had already returned to their usual gentle form. What was with those eyes just now?
Ryunosuke-san, your phone.
Oh, right. I looked down at my phone. I didn't have even a single bar of signal. We were inside a deserted village deep in the mountains. I thought there was a chance, but of course, it was impossible. No signal. How about you, Miyuki-chan?
Same here.
As Miyuki-chan said that, somehow her voice sounded a bit relieved. Perhaps Miyuki-chan would prefer we not contact the outside world via mobile phone? Hey, come on. That can't be. After all, there are 3 suicide victims right in front of us. I'm lost. What do we do at a time like this?
Indeed.
Though I was feeling irritated, Miyuki-chan, on the other hand, didn't seem to be panicking at all. People are dead. How can she be so calm about it? Hey, Miyuki-chan...
Ryunosuke-san, why don't we head to the village assembly hall?
The assembly hall?
If it has a phone, there's a chance it still works.
Do you know where it is?
Over this way.
The gap was too narrow for the car to fit through, so we had to advance on foot. Miyuki-chan walked past the suicide party's car and continued down the narrow road without hesitation. She was walking toward the town at a steady pace. I lightly jogged to catch up with Miyuki-chan, then felt a bit uneasy as I asked her a question. This assembly hall, is it far from here?
I'm sure it's within the grounds of the Frude Shrine, so I don't think it's very far. This road leads to the shrine, so we're on a direct path here.
That's odd. How would Miyuki-chan know the precise location of a local assembly hall? And more importantly, what are the chances we'd find a working phone inside a village abandoned for over 20 years? Miyuki-chan claimed she had never been to Hinamizawa before, and yet she's navigating the forks and bends in the road without even a moment of hesitation. It's as if she knows all the roads in this village by heart. Weird? Hey, Miyuki-chan, is this really your first time coming to this village?
Of course. Why do you ask?
Oh, no reason. I felt a slight pain in my chest. I suddenly stole a quick glance at Miyuki-chan's expression. However, I failed to discern anything from the calm look on her face. Chapter split? Oh my god, finally. The pacing of this is definitely a bit slower, but because I have no idea what the end game will be, like, people might die, people might not die. I don't know if the pacing is fast or not. Oh, great, a tip. We'll read that next episode. Alright, yeah, save. Alright, that's gonna be it for this episode, guys. If you liked it, then be sure to press the like button, and if you didn't like it, then fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye! Yeah.